Welcome to our monthly Sheriff Rutherford's call-in show. We want to ask anyone who has a question to start calling 904-630-1832, or you can contact us on Facebook at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office or Twitter, JSOPIO. And I think the Sheriff has some things he wants to start off with.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, we have a lot of information to share with you today. Everything from budgets to body cameras. That's a big issue out there right now. Officer-involved shootings, the way people can connect with us through the show, and also let you know this is our telecommunications officers week. We've had lots of some very fun events this week honoring our emergency communications officers. They call them PICOs, Police Emergency Communications Officers, and they actually got to dunk the undersheriff yesterday several times. So that was fun to watch. I was busy, so I didn't get to do that. But we're proud to honor them this week. They have an incredibly difficult job in that communications center. You can imagine keeping up with hundreds and hundreds of officers throughout the city every day, the thousands of calls that come in every day, and coordinating all of that through our communication center is truly a challenge. And those men and women back there do an amazing job at keeping up with our officers, and in fact keeping them safe, because those call takers, if they don't get the right information, an officer walks into a situation completely unaware, and it can be dangerous for them. And so we really do appreciate our PICOs back there. One of the things I want to talk about, there's been some discussion recently about the budgets and the increases in my budget since 2011, since Mayor Brown's election in 2011, and a comment was made, I believe, by the mayor that said that my budget had gone up $48 million and I could use that to hire 80 police officers. And folks, I have to tell you, that couldn't be further from the truth. My budget has gone up. In fact, it's actually gone up. I have the numbers here for my budget office. My budget has gone up from $345 million to $398 million. That's a $52 million increase that we show, not 48. However, what the mayor failed to mention is the fact that my pension cost and workers' comp costs in that same time period, where he gave me an additional $52 million, although he called it 48, where he actually gave me $52 million, my expenses in my budget, just for those two items, just for pension and workers' comp, went up $59.1 million, almost $59.2 million. Which meant that I then had to cut $6.7 million out of my budget. And that $6.7 million resulted in some officers, some vacancies being cut from my budget. And so that's how over the last 3 years, since Mayor Brown's taken office, I've lost 147 police positions. Now, we actually eliminated 197 police positions, but we brought 50 back from the schools. So, it's kind of a wash there. But 147 officers is what we're down. And, the comment was made that I could use the money that the mayor has given me over the last 3 years to hire 80 police officers. I couldn't even keep the ones I had. I certainly can't go out and hire any more. So Mayor's Budget Office needs to do some checking of their facts on that. Now let me shift and talk a little bit about body cameras. A lot of people are calling for body cameras in light of different shootings across the country. Most recently, the one in South Carolina, I believe it was. But first of all, what we need to understand is body cameras would not have stopped any of those incidents from occurring. That's the first thing. It might have captured what happened, but I don't believe it would stop what happened. And so that's the first issue I'll throw out there. Look, I have and I've stated this publicly, I really have no issue with body cameras if we deploy them properly and we look at some issues concerning privacy rights of our citizens. This is what concerns me the most about the cameras. It's not the cost, although that will be significant if we don't change some of the public records laws. That would be significant. Under the current public records laws, we would have to keep officers' video recordings, which I assume would be recording 365 days out there 24/7. Anytime the officer's working, that camera would be recording. The purchase of the equipment is not the problem. That's a couple $1,000s a unit. But when you start storing years of video data, that's going to be, heck, we're going to need a server as big as this building to keep those records, and that is a problem. The second problem is what it does to public safety and the chilling effect that it may have on victims being willing to call the police. And let me give you an example. Our officers get called to your home. Think about this. We get called to your home because some issue is going on in your family. It's never happened before, but you have this, some kind of horrible fight going on. We get called in. Officers come into your home, body cameras rolling, capture you, your husband, your spouse, the family in this horrific situation. Also captures all of the valuables that are in your house, and then when we leave at the end of that call, your neighbor says, "Hey, Sheriff, I want a copy of that call. I want to see all the body camera recordings that occurred inside that house," and it's public record. We would have to give that to them, so now you're going to see your family on YouTube. And I just have serious issues with that. That is a complete invasion of privacy that I don't believe is necessary. So what this will do, this has the potential to again drive domestic violence, particularly, back underground. Because no woman or no spouse that's been battered is going to want to call the police to come to their home, have this recorded, their interactions of the police with the police recorded, and then that be subject to public records laws, which force me to give it to those who ask for it, and then they can put it up on YouTube, and your whole domestic violence situation is now out there for the world to see. And look, this falls right into line with the same issue that I talked about when I was when I had to take the radios away from the media. We now have the ability to encrypt our radio communications. Under Florida Statute 119 and Florida Statute 365, you, the public, have certain confidentiality rights outside of and an exception to the public records laws. And so to protect your confidentiality rights under Florida Statute 119 and Florida Statute 365, I had to take those those radios back from the media so that they did not have access to that confidential information that is often put across those airways, not to mention all the HIPAA information that may also be, that's health insurance, or health, what HIPAA, it's Health Information Privacy Act. So all of that I think has the potential to truly violate your rights to privacy and your rights to confidentiality. Look, if you call 911, you have a right under the law to remain confidential. If you or your wife or your daughter, God forbid, or someone in your family is sexually abused, you have a right to preclude the media from having that information. And all that stuff goes out on these airwaves, and the media should not have access to that because then they can put that out and violate your confidentiality rights under the law. And that's why I took the cameras away. I'm sorry, that's why I took the radios away from the media, and that's why I'm hesitant until we vet this issue through the public records laws. I'm hesitant to put body cameras out there. Now, we already have cameras in our cars, in some of our cars. The DUI traffic enforcement cars, we already use dash cam video. So we're not opposed to, cameras and using cameras to capture what goes on, but I am opposed to, those places where it becomes a privacy issue for you, the public. That's one of our main functions here at JSO, is to protect your rights, to protect your privacy, and to protect your confidentiality rights under Florida statute, and we're going to do that. And so if you have any issues about body cameras, I will also tell you that body cameras are not going to be the silver bullet that everyone believes they're going to be. There's a group called the Force Science Institute, and I would encourage you to go to their website, the Force Science Institute. I guess if you hit forcescienceinstitute.com, you can probably get it. I'm sorry, it's www.forcescience.org. And go to Force Science. They have a whole list of issues, 10 of them, that are some of the drawbacks of cameras. And partly, for example, I'll just mention one. In low light conditions, the camera may actually be able to pick up more than the human eye. Also, you have officers who are suffering under the physiological effects of adrenaline in most of these life and death situations. And so they have tunnel vision, they have auditory exclusion, a lot of things physiologically happening to officers when they're under these high stress situations where they've had a very large adrenaline dump. And fact of the matter is, it affects them physiologically. It doesn't affect the camera, so the camera may actually see something that the officer completely misses. Although it's on camera, the officer didn't see it because he was suffering from tunnel vision or auditory exclusion. So there's a lot of things that could be going on here that, what the camera captures and what the officer is actually able to capture may be two completely different things. And there's a lot of other issues about cameras as well. But I think it's enough to say that it's not going to be the panacea that a lot of people suspect it will be. Might be in some cases, probably won't be in others. And one of the things that concerns me the most is when we have discussions about, well, to save on all this storage for these video cameras, why don't we simply turn them on and off? Well, now you're really putting the officer in a difficult position, because most life and death situations that officers get into, they don't even know they're a life and death situation until they're in it. And now you want an officer to remember to turn his camera on, and when he doesn't, because he forgets it, because he's in this really horrific life-saving or life-defending situation, he forgets to turn the camera on, and then people are going to go, oh, well, why didn't you turn the camera on? You must have planned on doing something wrong, and those sort. It's a no-win for the officer. And so, if we're going to record, I think we need to record everything. But we need to protect your privacy rights at the same time. And I know the legislature is looking at that as we speak, but one of the things that they're talking about is turning cameras on and off. And I've got serious concerns about that, because what that's going to do is put the onus on the officer to explain why his camera might have been turned off when one of these incidents occurs. And that's going to put him directly on the spot. Now, let me talk too briefly about crime in Jacksonville. We are enjoying a 43-year low in overall crime. In fact, in 2011, we had the lowest crime numbers Jacksonville had going all the way back to 1971, and that was a good thing. And overall, crime continued to go down through 2012. However, what we've seen since we had to cut 147 police positions, or 197, and got the 50 back from the school board, however you want to calculate that, I like to just say we lost 147 general fund positions, and that's a fact. But since we lost those officers, you can see where our crime our violent crime has begun to spike again. And in fact, I'll just share some of the numbers with you here. As I mentioned, in 2011, when murder was the lowest it had been, going all the way back to 1971, we had 71 murders in 2011. We actually had 74 back in 1971. And our community is probably 3 times as big as it was in 1971. So that was an amazing achievement for not just the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, but for this entire community, because that number being driven down to 71 was not just about enforcement. It was also about prevention and intervention. And a lot of the Jacksonville Journey programs that we're working throughout the city of Jacksonville, working with our youth. And you can see, we're gonna hold up this chart for you, where you can actually see the spike that we experienced in 2008, well, 7 and 8, and then because of the journey, when we brought all those officers on, and we got up to 1,750 police positions. When we had 1,750 police positions, our violent crime started going down in double digits. In fact, one year we had a 16% drop in violent crime, and that's an unheard of reduction for violent crime in just 1 year. But then, after 2011, you see when we bottomed out at 1679, with officers, we were beginning to cut officers from the 1,750, and our reductions in violent crime started to flatten out, and now, in fact, it has spiked up, and we're now at 5,853 for 2014, where we only had 5,469 in 2010. So violent crime has gone up significantly. In fact, I can tell you from 2011 to 2014, violent crime in our community has gone up almost 13%. So yes, violent crime, or overall crime, is still down 4% from 2011 to 2014, but that doesn't tell the story of murder and violent crime in our community, because for example, murder has gone up 35% since 11. Now this is all through 2014. Rape, I will tell you, rape, 36% increase. Part of that is a reporting issue. We changed some reporting procedures, and so you see that increase. Aggravated assaults are up 21.24. So yes, overall crime is down because we have a lot more property crime than we do violent crime, thank God. But our violent crime is going back up, and we have a violent crime problem in this community because we cut our resources and a lot of the journey funding for those prevention and intervention programs that really work with our youth. You know, I think JCCI said it best when they said the challenge facing Jacksonville, when we were looking at murder back in 2007, they said, look, the challenge facing Jacksonville is simply this: how do we raise young boys and girls to become nonviolent young men and women? And that is the challenge facing Jacksonville. That's why those journey programs were so very important. You can't do it all through enforcement. You've heard me say a million times, I'm sure, that you can't arrest your way out of a murder problem. We've got to stop raising murderers in this community. And so that's been part of our initiative. And you know, when we had the right number of officers, you can see from the graph that you saw earlier that crime goes down. When you take those resources away, I'm not surprised at all that violent crime is going up. And I'll mention this to all of you that have had to sit out there on the side of the highway after a traffic crash and sit there for 2 hours waiting for FHP at a state road. Let me say, as I told Channel 4, I told you so. I told this community that if we cut those 91 community service officers, if we were forced to make those cuts because of the mayor's budget, that people were going to be waiting on state roads for FHP to come work their crash. Well, it happened. And you know, Channel 4 came and asked me about that, and I said, hey, Sheriff, what do you have to say about that? I said, I told you so. I told you it was going to be just like this if these cuts, as a result of the mayor's budget, had to go through. So look, not only have I lost 147 police positions, I've also lost 91 community service officers, and that was those men and women out there in the bright green shirts. You may remember them, and that was a great feeder system for hiring police officers. We could get kids right out of our Explorer program in high school, and really work them, take them right out of our Explorer program, put them in as community service officers, assist them in getting their college, which made it a really good recruiting platform for our African American numbers, and then they become a police officer at the end of that 5 years. If you want to see the report on these numbers, the crime numbers, the number of officers that we had, go to our webpage. It's on the front page of our webpage at www.JAXSHERIFF.org, and just look under reports, and you can pull that up and study those numbers, and you will see the number of resources that we have in this agency is directly correlates with the amount of violent crime that we have in this community. When we have the proper staffing, and when I asked for the 225 officers back in 2006 and 7, I didn't just make that number up. Myself, Mayor John Payton, and the council president at that time, we hired a consulting firm out of California, and we said, look, come look at our agency. Look at our agency. Tell us if are we fat at the top? Are we inefficient? Should we be doing more with the resources we have? And they looked at this agency for 6 months. They looked at the DNA of crime in our community, and what they concluded was we were efficient, we were effective, we were responsive to the community, but we were woefully understaffed. And if you did all the math machinations and all that, you come up with the fact that we needed to add 225 police officers. Now that would have gotten us to 1,827 police. However, we only got up to 1,750, and we saw these huge reductions in violent crime, as you'll see on that chart. But part of the reason for that response is we also had, remember, those 91 community service officers in there. So, that allowed us to have that kind of crime reduction without having to get to the 1,827 police officers, because we had 1,750 police and 91 community service officers who were truly a force multiplier for those police officers. They kept officers in the neighborhoods where they could actually engage the community. A lot of the community engagement that we do, it's manpower intense, it's staffing intense. To have officers have the time to get out and do the walk and knocks, like we did in Operation Ceasefire, where we went out there and knocked on 13,000 doors, talking to the public about crime in their community and telling them how they could help us drive that out. So if you'd like to call 630-1832, you can also email us a question, www.jaxsheriff.org. And Melissa, do we have anything from Facebook or anything?
We have one thing from Mr. Paul Stoddard. He wants to know what your plans are after you're out of office.
Well, thank you, Paul. Well, first, I intend to spend some time with my grandchildren. I'm really looking forward to that. They are growing up so fast. My oldest granddaughter was 3 when I took office, and she's 15 today. And the transition from 3 to 15 is pretty significant. I can tell you. And I'm like, wow, where'd all the time go? I share with folks that my favorite verse in the Bible now is out of James, where it says, "For what is your life but a vapor? Here a little while and then it vanishes away." And so I guess when you have more time behind you than you got in front of you, you start thinking about those things. But Paul, I can tell you, it has been an honor to serve this community for the past 41 years. It's been an honor to be the sheriff for the past 12 years. And I've never been more proud of the men and women of this agency. And I look forward to, maybe after spending some time with my grandkids, maybe looking at a House seat. I've been legislative chair for the Florida Sheriffs for, I don't know, almost 9 out of the last 12 years. And I think I'd like maybe to get involved in that process. I could still give back to the community in that way. utilizing some of the knowledge, skills, and abilities that I've picked up over the last 41 years as a police officer here. So I would love to continue to serve this community, and that might be the way for me to do that. So thank you for asking, Paul.
We have a big event coming up on April 18th, the Safety Fair.
Yes, this Saturday. Let me encourage you, get by Regency Square between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. If you have small children particularly, we have a bicycle course to teach them bicycle safety. We're also going to raffle off 40 bicycles. We also have helmets for all the kids that go through the safety course on their bike. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of interesting things at that Shadco Safety Fair. So let me encourage you to go by there. And again, that's going to be at Regency Square from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this Saturday. And I think they're in the South Lot again. So go to Regency Square and participate in that Shadco East Safety Fair. It will be a lot of fun. There's a lot of a lot of other programs there too, like the identification program, capturing DNA for your children, that sort of thing, I think. So just go by and see all the crime prevention programs that they have there for you. Also, coming up later this month, the 23rd of April, is First Coast Crime Stoppers is going to have a shoot, fundraiser. It's going to be at the Jacksonville Skeet and Trap Club on New Berlin Road. And if you haven't been to the Jacksonville Skeet and Trap Club lately, you need to get out there because they've just opened up their Sporting Clays course. It's a 15-station course. It's a 100-round course with 15 different stations, 15 different looks at the clay birds as they fly through the trees, and it's tough. I've shot it several times now, and it really is tough, but it's a lot of fun. And instead of shooting skeet and trap this year for their fundraiser, we're actually going to shoot the Sporting Clays. So come out, join us. It's an awful lot of fun. That's the 23rd of April. For all the information about costs and all that, you can go to FC Crime Stoppers. That stands for First Coast Crime Stoppers, but fccrimestoppers.com, and they have all the information posted there for you that you may need. Now, in addition to that, there's these shoots are getting pretty popular. I think particularly since we've got the Sporting Clays out there at the Ski Club now in New Berlin. The 8th of May, the Justice Coalition is also going to have a shoot, shotgun shoot fundraiser, and they're shooting Sporting Clays as well. So it'll be the same course, so you can practice on the 23rd of April to get really good for the one on the 8th of May. In the Justice Coalition, you can go to justicecoalition.org for all the information on their course, and when that shoot will kick off on the 8th of May. I think it's a morning shoot as well, 7:30, 8 o'clock. But come on out and join us. We're going to be there. In the Justice Coalition shoot, you'll also see, I have to admit, last year, Sheriff Rick Beasler from Clay County stole the trophy from me, and the Sheriff's Trophy. So I'm looking to get the Sheriff's Trophy back this year. And that'll be on the 8th of May at the Jacksonville Skeet and Trap Club out on New Berlin. And just a plug for them, they are open Wednesday and Friday. I think they open at noon both of those days, and then or maybe 9. But go out, and they're also open Saturday and Sunday from 9 or 10 to like 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Go out to the Jacksonville Skeet and Trap Club. I can tell you, it's amazing with the Sporting Clays course now. And I think that is one more event that I want to tell you about. The 26th of May, it's going to be my honor to be the keynote speaker at the Crime Prevention Prayer Breakfast for Prisoners of Christ. And this is an organization, folks, that if you got a few spare dollars around that you want to give to a charity that is really making a difference in crime in our community, the Prisoners of Christ group is a great one to contribute to. These members of Prisoners of Christ They actually go into our state institutions, they witness, they mentor, they love on those inmates who are incarcerated and about to come back to Jacksonville. They work closely with our Jacksonville Reentry Center, and I can tell you that's been a tremendous partner for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. When we talk about those crime reductions that we've seen, Prisoners of Christ and other organizations like that are responsible for that intervention piece. And I can tell you, Prisoners of Christ, Ken Durkee, and all the folks associated with that organization are just top-notch people who love the Lord and love those inmates and want them to be successful when they come back to our community. Because folks, about 2,400 convicted felons come back to Jacksonville every year from the state prison system. So if we're not working to make them better when they come back, we're missing a great opportunity, because they will commit another crime. If they're not successful, they're going to go back to what they do, what they know the best, and that is committing crimes. So 2 upcoming sheriff's walks. We have one in Zone 3 on the south side, and then April 30th, and that's April 30th on a Thursday, and then Zone 4 over on the west side. That one's going to be May 19th. That's a Tuesday. And for the details on those walks, you can go to JAXSHERIFF.org and come join us on one of those walks. If you haven't done that yet, I've been, these walks are actually something that started back in 1995 under Sheriff Nat Glover. And I had the opportunity as a chief to walk with him on many of those walks, and I saw the value of it. That interaction, those relationships that we're able to build into the community really made a difference in our community. And so I have continued those walks. I hope they continue after I'm gone, and I'm sure they will, because it's very important that we have these relationships in our community. Because folks, look, let me pause here for a second. I'm going to do my Rubio moment. Thank you. But look, these relationships are very important. I tell my folks all the time here at JSO, you cannot build a relationship in the middle of a crisis. You can only access the relationships that you already have. Now, I can tell you, all I know about Ferguson is what I saw on television, like many of you. But one thing that I know from having seen that is there was a disconnect between that law enforcement agency and that community. It looked like a complete disconnect. Here at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, we work on that hard every day. And that is it's not a program, it's not something that you do once or twice, and it's a work in progress. You're always working on that. And here's why. As I tell my staff, look, it's kind of like the old question about whether the glass is half empty or half full. I tell folks there is a correct answer to that question. And the correct answer is, it depends. And the reason I say that, if you're pouring, the glass is half full. If you're drinking, the glass is half empty. So the water in that glass represents community goodwill. In the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and the men and women of this agency, through a myriad of ways. And if you go on our webpage, you can see a lot of the ways that we engage the community to pour into that glass, to pour community goodwill into that glass. And and the reason that's important is because eventually, at some point, we're going to have to drink from it. We're going to need their support. We're going to need them to understand what we're all about. We're going to need them to understand the heart of this organization and why we do what we do. And that's the time there better be something in that glass. And if we haven't put in there, shame on us, because then you have a Ferguson type situation here in Jacksonville. And I'm very proud that we've been able to not have those types of situations in Jacksonville. Sometimes we need to celebrate what doesn't occur, and we haven't had those issues to that, certainly not to that extent. look, we certainly have work to do. We're never going to deny that, but we also need to understand that we're not Ferguson, we're not South Carolina, we're not a lot of these other areas across the country. And so I'm very proud of the men and women of this agency. I promised this community that they would be men and women of character, that they would be well equipped, properly deployed, and they'd be skillfully managed. And we do that. And I think it's important, particularly for the community, to see that officers here in Jacksonville are disciplined when they violate policy. When they violate state law, they get arrested. And that, I hate to say it, but that's happened. But what it tells the community is you can trust your JSO police department. And I don't think we've ever had more integrity in this agency than we have right now. And so I thank you for the community that reaches back out, because look, even community outreach doesn't work if the community isn't willing to respond and reach back. So the accomplishments that we've had in reducing crime to the lowest levels in 43 years, it's not because of just putting people in jail. It's because of the prevention, the intervention, and the enforcement. And the evidence of that is, if you look at our adult arrests, I think our adult arrests are down about 40%, and I think our juvenile arrests are down like 62%. And so, of course, our crime is going down. Those numbers should be going down. But that's a testament to the prevention and the intervention side of not just our organization, but the entire city of Jacksonville. So we're very proud of that. But let me remind you, we have a violent crime problem. And I think we have a violent crime problem because we've taken our eye off the ball on some of the resources for the enforcement side of the organization to get some of these bad guys off the street before they start killing people. And that's a place, I think we need to address in future budgets, restoring those 147 police positions and restoring the 91 community service officers that were also cut. So with that, we have anything else, Melissa?
We've had some recent shootings. Can you talk about how important it is for people that may hear of someone who may have done something? That little bit of information makes such a significant difference in these investigations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, listen, that goes back to the relationship between JSO and the community. And let me tell you, I'm very proud of that relationship. I think the fact that our clearance rates, and I guess I should tell you what a clearance rate is. A clearance rate means we know who did it. We figure out who did it, and we're able to clear that case, make an arrest. Now, well, sometimes make an arrest. If the suspect's already dead, you can still clear that case, but so it doesn't necessarily mean an arrest. But I think when you look at our clearance rates, I mentioned this earlier, when you look at our clearance rates, and in most categories we're double digits above the national average, what that means is, now listen, my detectives would love to tell you that the way crime gets solved is they go out there and they sift through the evidence and they figure it out. Well, honestly, folks, what usually happens is somebody calls and tells us who did it, and then we go back and sift through the evidence and all that to prove it. But they really, the community tells us where to look, and that information is vital. And so, it's a little concerning to me when I see media representatives go up to victims' homes or someone's home and they get the door slammed in their face and they then decide that or propose that because that witness doesn't want to talk to them on camera, that nobody in that community is talking. Well, that's absolutely false. Our phones may be blowing up down here with tips, but that witness, because that witness doesn't want to talk to the media on the camera, I understand that. I get that. Which is another issue with putting body cameras on police officers. It could have the same chilling effect in them coming up to a police officer. So the fact that they don't want to talk to the media on camera does not mean that community is not talking to us. And so if you're that citizen out there, and here's the danger in this. If there's a citizen sitting out there who watches the news and they're being told by newscasters that nobody in this community is talking, but they have that one little piece of information that may break this case for us, they stop and pause and say, well, heck, if nobody else is talking, I'm certainly not going to step out there. And that's not the case at all. Call us with that tip. Tell us what you know. Trust me, your neighbors and others are calling us and telling us what they know. So I want to encourage you to call those tips in. And look, if you want to remain anonymous, you can actually go through First Coast Crime Stoppers and remain completely anonymous and pick up a $1,000 reward. And sometimes, if it's a gun bounty tip, for example, you can get even more money. And let me remind you what a gun bounty program is and what it's for. Number one, it's not to get guns out of the bad guy's hands. I'm sorry, the gun bounty is. The gun bounty is to get the guns out of the bad guy's hands. A gun buyback is to get the guns out of the good guy's hands who don't want them. The people who may not store them properly, want to get rid of them. You have a widow now, she doesn't know what to do with all these guns. It's a great way to dispose of guns that you do not want. And it helps us get guns off the street that may be stored in cars or in homes, and they wind up being stolen, and then they wind up being used in a crime. So the gun buyback is going after those guns, just to get guns off the street, and it keeps gun violence in the media. And we like to talk about gun violence so people are aware of that. But the gun bounty is what I really want to talk to you about. That's going after the bad guys. Because what we do is we offer a $1,000 bounty to anybody who calls in and tells us who is carrying a gun illegally. And if we make an arrest and we recover that gun, you get a $1,000 bounty. And many times, if that gun's been used in a crime, you can get $2,000 or $3,000 from First Coast Crime Stoppers for turning in that individual who's illegally carrying a gun. Because folks, I'm going to tell you, 99% of the violent crime in this community is tied to drugs. It's tied to the drug trade. It's driven by the drug trade. And if you're not involved in drugs, if you're not carrying a gun illegally, and you treat your spouse right, your chances, if you're not doing any of those three things, your chances of being murdered in Jacksonville are pretty darn slim. And so I would encourage you, if you know folks who are carrying guns illegally, please call in, tell us who they are. If we capture them and get the gun, you get a $1,000 bounty. Now, another way you can help us out with crime is in your car. I just mentioned the number of guns that are actually stolen out of cars. Now, it's unfathomable to me, but let me tell you, folks, some of you guys out there, you park your car in your driveway, you got your gun stuffed under the seat, and you leave the door unlocked, and your gun gets stolen. That gun is now going to be involved in a crime, but you can almost guarantee it. Don't do that. If you have a gun, don't store it in your car. Take it into the house and properly store it in your home. Don't leave cars stored in your car. Now, even if you lock the door, okay, don't leave valuables out where people can see it. Most of these guys who are breaking into cars, they actually walk up to the car, they look inside. If they see anything, not only will they try the door and go in if it's open, but they'll also knock out the window to go in because they know something's in there. They won't knock out the window of a car that has no valuables in sight because they don't know what they're going to get. But if they see your laptop or your camera sitting on the front seat, they're going to bust that window out to go get it. Or if they see your gun butt sticking out from under the seat, they're going to bust that window out and go get it, even if the car is locked. So lock your car, store your valuables where they are not visible. Do not leave guns stored in your car. If you have to leave it in the car because you don't have proper storage in the house, put it in the trunk. Get it out every day. But look, I love the Second Amendment. I love gun ownership. Obviously, I've got lots of them. But look, we have to be responsible gun owners. It's about being responsible. And I'm here to tell you, leaving a gun in your car unlocked is not responsible. So, and also, when you go work out at these gyms, ladies, don't leave your purse sitting on your seat, even if you lock the car, because somebody's going to steal your purse. They're going to break the glass and take your purse. It's a given. And you wouldn't believe how big of a problem this is around places like these workout spots, these gyms. So help us out with that. Help us drive those numbers down, and help us keep these guns off the street, and help us get the guns out of the bad guys' hands. Because I'll tell you, a lot of these guys in these neighborhoods, they'll turn their mom in for $1,000. So call us. We'll pay you well for that firearm.
That's all we have for today's show.
Alrighty.
You've talked a lot. Thank you
Well,
for
listen,
your time.
Okay, thank you all very much. Go to our website at www.jaxsheriff.org. Click on our newsroom. Any interview that I do with the media is posted there. You can see those in their entirety, by the way. We don't edit it like the media does. We put the entire question and we put the entire answer on our website for you guys to look at. So it's a great way for you to see, exactly what the whole question and answer is. And I think that's important, and that's a service that we try to help out the media. Look, they've got limitations. They've got a lot of news to cover. Out of a 20-minute interview with me, you're probably going to see 10 or 15 seconds on television. That, maybe a half a minute. But we're going to put the whole thing out there for them. And so that I think is a great service to the community. So we appreciate that, and God bless y'all, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.